Was geht ab, Freunde? Herzlich willkommen zu einem weiteren Video auf meinem YouTube-Kanal. Wie ihr dem Titel entnehmen könnt, gibt es heute eine Reaction und zwar auf ein Video von dem lieben Nick Trigidi. Für all diejenigen, die Nick Trigidi nicht kennen, das ist so aktuell die Person, die wirklich so den ganzen Klatsch und Tratsch im Bodybuilding öffentlich macht. Es war auch die Person, die zuallererst wusste tatsächlich oder zuallererst darüber berichtet hat, dass Nick Walker damals Matt Jansen verlassen hat und Revive. Dementsprechend ist es eine Person, die auch wirklich Quellen hat, die stimmen, sonst wüsste er diese Dinge nicht. Und heute soll es um niemanden Geringeres gehen als um Dennis Wolf und was er aktuell nimmt, laut Nick Trigidi. Darauf möchte ich gerne reagieren, vor allem jetzt zu den aktuellen Umständen in der Zeit, wo wirklich viele Bodybuilder leider verstorben sind. Interessiert mich das Ganze, was Nick Trigidi dazu sagt, wie Dennis Wolf oder was Dennis Wolf aktuell nimmt und wie er aktuell ausschaut. Denn Dennis ist gar nicht mehr so dünn, wie er, sag ich mal, vor 2 Jahren ungefähr war und vor 10 Jahren. Na, das war eine ganz andere Welt. Dennis ist auch tatsächlich ein Bodybuilder, den ich mit als Vorbild sehe. Er hat einfach eine brutal geile Linie gehabt, brutal viel Fleisch. Und ich würde sagen, wir starten jetzt einfach mal die Reaction und schauen uns das ganze Video an.
To his new physique post bodybuilding career, and man, he looks freaking insane.
So, wir haben gerade ein Bild vom lieben Dennis gesehen. Er sieht wirklich viel, viel besser aus als jetzt vor 1,5 Jahren.
If you guys don't know who Dennis Wolf is, let me remind you guys. So if you didn't follow bodybuilding in the early 2000s, Dennis Wolf was a household name and he was picked to be one of the top guys.
Also allein schon hier sieht man Dennis Wolf, das war nochmal eine andere Welt, ne? Der Mann war so fleischig, so von der Linie her auch wirklich so schön, obenrum so breit. Das ist ein Look, den ich auch anstrebe.
To possibly win the Mr. Olympia one day. But unfortunately, that dream never was fulfilled. It never happened. Now, do I think it could have happened if he did not get injured? I think so. Because right before he suffered that injury, which took him out of bodybuilding, he was on a roll. He was in the top 3, top 4, top 5 every year for the last couple of years before he retired. Now, the injury he suffered was basically an injury to his neck. I'm not sure.
Ich denke auch, dass Dennis, hätte er weiter Gas geben können, glaube ich, hätte er sogar den Thron von Mr. Olympia einmal gewinnen können. Bin ich der Meinung, ja.
Sure how this injury happened. I never really heard of a bodybuilder being forced to retire from some type of nerve or injury to his neck. But clearly this was a serious problem, and he did try to make a comeback after the surgery was done. But at that point, he was just out for too long and lost too much size. So he was forced to be sidelined.
Man sieht hier auch richtig gut, wie die Muskeln irgendwann atrophieren. Man sieht das an den Armen ganz gut. Ich finde das irgendwie traurig, dass das dann am Ende so ausschauen kann.
From competing from bodybuilding. There was a couple of years where he was still transitioning, I think, trying to figure out what he wanted to look like. Maybe he was still rehabbing the injury, but it seems like he finally figured that out and has really got his physique back to where he's looking insane. Almost to the point where he looks like he could compete in men's physique or classic physique. I mean, that's how good the guy looks right now. Now, he's also built himself an insane gym in his yard in Las Vegas, which I believe he trains all his clients out of, and the gym is outstanding. It's insane.
Dennis Wolf hat einfach mal ein ganzes Gym von Gym 80 draußen in seinem oder vor seinem Haus, in seinem Garten. Geil.
State-of-the-art facility, all German engineering, all German equipment, and it's set up really nice. So he looks like he's really enjoying training once again. He's really transformed and put on a good amount of muscle.
Hier sieht man es, also Dennis sieht wirklich wieder gut aus. Also er sieht nicht so eingefallen aus, er hat wieder schön pralle Muskeln. Ich finde den Look in dem Alter, wenn man praktisch vom Bodybuilding oder mit dem Bodybuilding aufgehört hat, ist so ein Look sehr anstrebenswert und er sieht auf jeden Fall gesünder aus als so komplett eingefallen. Meiner Meinung nach.
But not to the point of like being a bodybuilder once again. He just has a very lean, athletic look, which is very attainable, the physique he has for the rest of his life. He doesn't have to really worry about, oh, I have to maintain this crazy diet to look like this. I'm sure with the way Dennis looks right now and what he used to look like, he's probably eating like me. 2 meals a day, 3 meals a day, tops, not that high in protein, probably low protein, moderate carbohydrates, moderate fats, probably eats what he wants, when he wants it, on weekends, goes out to dinner, probably not eating a strict diet at all. I'd be pretty...
Ich glaube aber, das ist gar nicht so easy, muss ich wirklich sagen, wenn man vom Profisport kommt oder allgemein in dieser Living in a Box, würde jetzt Jay Cutler sagen, wenn man da rauskommt, dass man da wirklich wieder so normal isst und nur so 2, 3 Mal am Tag. Wobei ich mir auch wiederum denke, dieses ganze Essen nimmt so viel Zeit weg und auch dieses ganze Meal Preppen, natürlich, ich liebe das, mir macht das Spaß, aber ab einem gewissen Alter, so wie es jetzt hier Nick sagt, 2, 3 Meals am Tag, bisschen darauf achten, dass das Eiweiß gedeckt ist und trotzdem sein Leben genießen können. Das ist so, wo ich auch irgendwann hin will. Also ich will den Sport nicht bis 40 machen und mich damit kaputt machen, sondern irgendwann will ich auch mal damit aufhören oder zumindest mal einen Gang zurückschrauben und das Leben genießen.
Be surprised, to be honest with you, because when he was bodybuilding, I mean, the guy was absolutely huge. Like, I met Dennis multiple times, talked to him, shook his hand, been around him at expos when he was at his peak in bodybuilding, and we're exactly the same height. If I could find the photo of us, I'm gonna stick it in here. But this guy was like this wide, and he was like this thick from chest to back, and he would have this crazy small waist on stage, and then his quads would have these crazy sweeps on them. They almost looked like they were 3D on stage. I mean, the guy's physique was next level. Genetic specimen. There's years where you could argue Dennis being Mr. Olympia. If Phil Heath wasn't there, I think Dennis would have been a serious contender for the Olympia those couple of years. The only hole on his physique which held him back, I think, this is my opinion only, hamstrings, and at the beginning of his Olympia run, he didn't have the back yet. But at the end there, right before he injured, he finally brought that back 100% complete to the Olympia. And still, the hamstrings were lagging. People can knock his calves, but let's be honest. Is the Mr. Olympia judging panel really going to hold somebody back that doesn't have calves to win Mr. Olympia? No, because we've seen many past Mr. Olympias not have calves. So clearly, they're not an issue if you want to be Mr. Olympia. Now, what do I think Dennis Wolf is doing chemically to look like this? The first thing, he's definitely on TRT. 100%, I'm certain he's taking TRT, especially because he was a former bodybuilder and he competed at the highest level, and most likely, he's probably got suppressed test levels to the point where he's not...
Ja, also ich denke auch, wenn man so 10, 15 Jahre lang Testo durchnimmt, wird da jetzt nicht mehr so großartig was von selbst anspringen, es sei denn, ihr nehmt 2 Jahre lang mal nichts und feuert euch HCG, HMG, Clomid und Tamox rein. Ansonsten THT, so wie Nix hier sagt, das ist auch der Way to go, auch für mich irgendwann. Ich werde irgendwann Mitte 30 anfangen, eine THT zu machen und Lifetime einmal die Woche eine Injektion setzen müssen, um meine Testosteronlevel aufrechtzuerhalten. Aber ich sage jedes Mal, ist doch geil, mit 40, 50 ein Testolevel von einem 20-Jährigen zu haben. Da bist du noch fit und spritzig.
Not producing natural testosterone anymore. So that's number one. I think he's on TRT. Now, outside of that, it's dicey. It's very dicey because he would walk around fairly lean at 300 pounds when he was competing. And when he got shredded for a show, he got shredded. And his skin was very thin. He was very vascular. You could see all the striations. He had deep cuts in his quad. So I think getting lean for him was fairly easy. And the way he looked after he suffered that injury, he downsized rather quickly. So that tells me right off the bat, he's naturally a thin guy. Not gonna say skinny, because he's not skinny, he's thin, he's athletic. So I feel like for him to stay lean is very easy. He could carry literally no muscle very easily if he wanted to, if he stopped training and stopped eating like a proper bodybuilder.
Ich denke auch in so ein Lifestyle wie Dennis jetzt lebt, ne, er wird jetzt nicht, wie gesagt, hier 6 Mal am Tag essen. Wenn du 2 bis 3 Mal am Tag isst und da auf deine 2.500, 3.000 Kalorien kommst, ein bisschen Cardio machst und dich bewegst, dann wirst du das auch verbrennen. Wenn du dann noch zusätzlich trainieren gehst, so wie es Dennis jetzt wieder macht, sichtlich, ist es, denke ich, nicht mehr schwierig, sage ich mal, mit einer schönen Körperkomposition rumzurennen. Also ich denke jetzt nicht, dass er da sagt, ha, ich muss jetzt in Form bleiben, sondern das ist einfach so bei ihm.
So if that's the case, my opinion, he's probably not taking anything crazy other than TRT. Maybe he fools around some Anavar. Maybe he fools around some HGH for anti-aging purposes for his joints, but I don't think he's taking anything to like necessarily look like that. Like to walk around being that lean, that round, and all that. Like to look like that, I think it's very easily attainable for him.
Und wir müssen immer bedenken, Dennis Wolf stand beim Olympia, hat dort den 3. Platz gemacht. Also das ist genetische Elite. So jemand nimmt ein bisschen Testo, also hier die TRT und wahrscheinlich ein bisschen HGH für seine Gelenke, fürs Anti-Aging. Und wenn er richtig trainiert, dann wird er auch wieder ordentlich Muskeln draufpacken können. Also das müssen wir auch immer bedenken, dass eine Person wie Dennis Wolf kein Normalo ist, sondern wirklich genetisch am oberen Pool ist.
He does not have to do much to look like that, like I said. That's how good his genetics are. And you gotta take into consideration, this guy competed at the professional level in bodybuilding at the highest level, the top 1% for a decade or more, if I'm not mistaken. He walked around 300 pounds plus, competed at 270 plus, 260 plus. So this guy was 3%, 4% on stage at 270 all the time, at least once a year. So for him to maintain this is a walk in the park, guys. If you guys don't understand how easy it is for me to look like this, it's probably even easier for him to look like that. And my genetics are not even close to being as good as Dennis Wolf's. And I know what I do to maintain this, and this is not hard. Not hard at all for me. And I'm comparing that to what I was like as a bodybuilder, how hard it was for me to look like that. So this is a walk in the park for me. I could do this the rest of my life, no sweat. Now let's just say Dennis wanted to bulk up a little bit. Let's say he wanted to...
Wenn man einmal Fleisch hat, das zu halten ist relativ leicht. Also ihr verliert jetzt nicht Unmengen an Muskulatur, wenn ihr noch ein bisschen was Intus habt und noch normal trainiert. Und selbst wenn ihr, sage ich mal, 5 bis 10 Kilo weniger Muskeln haben wollt, ja, dann hört ihr halt einfach auf, ein bisschen, sage ich mal, so progressiv zu trainieren. Geht ins Gym, habt Spaß und ihr werdet trotzdem noch gut aussehen, wenn ihr einmal schon Fleisch hattet, ne? Ganz klar.
Put on 5-10 pounds of lean body mass, and he didn't want to eat the food. He wanted to have some shakes during the day. We've seen recently these guys don't eat healthy anymore, but Dennis Wolf used to pound the food. I had all his DVDs. I watched all of his workout videos, all of his lifestyle videos. He used to pound food, but at this point in his life, he probably wants something that's easier to put down and it's quick and it's efficient. And I don't blame him. I do too. So that's why I incorporate Vintage Brawn Banana Milkshake, the newest flavor that we just launched with Old School Labs.
That's not bad.
You guys can grab it right now by clicking the link below. Now, when you guys put this into your diet, you're not just getting a protein powder with isolate protein. You're getting a protein powder that's made with milk, beef, and eggs. So you're getting all those amino acids that you normally wouldn't get from a regular isolate protein or a hydrolyzed protein.
In diesem Sinne, kauft das Battle Whey oder das Battle Isolat.
Protein. You're getting that with Vintage Brawn.
Mit JAM10.
That's what makes this protein really special. There's not any other protein on the market that can sit there and say they have 3 sources of protein like Vintage Brawn. And you got 24 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, no sugar, 2 carbs. You guys grab this and go there and shop right now. Now, I was watching some of Dennis Wolf's training footage, so I wanted to see how he was training. And he's training basically how he was as a bodybuilder. It looks like he's splitting up each body part, doing split workouts, like a chest try, back by, shoulder trap type of workout, and then legs. And he's keeping it very simple. And he's just chasing a pump. He's not lifting heavy at all. And if you know how strong Dennis was previously in his life when he was a bodybuilder, you know the weights he's using right now are nothing. They're probably as light as a feather to him. But at this point, he is just trying to maintain, he's trying to look good, feel good, and make sure he can preserve his joints to have longevity. Right now, he's training to just feel good and look good and be healthy. And
Wozu soll er auch jetzt noch schwer trainieren und sich irgendwas kaputt machen oder das sogar etwas abreißen könnte? Das würde einfach keinen Sinn mehr machen. Wenn du nicht mehr aktiv in dem Sport bist, versuch deinen Spaß zu haben im Training. Versuch natürlich, je nachdem, was dein Ziel ist, wenn du einfach deine Muskulatur erhalten willst, dann hab einfach Spaß, trainier ein bisschen. Du musst nicht bis ans Limit gehen in diesem Fall. Und deswegen denke ich, dass Dennis da auch alles richtig macht.
I'm sure this guy is doing cardio, even though he's not showing it. I'm sure he's doing cardio to make sure he's keeping his heart healthy and having good cardiovascular health overall. Because at this point, he needs to make sure he's doing everything as healthy as possible to make sure he lives a very long and healthy life. Now, the one thing I'm really curious about, which he hasn't spoken about, at least recently at least, I wonder if he's fully recovered from that. Because I know it was a pretty invasive surgery where he was out for a while, he was in a lot of pain, and if you guys saw how fast he downsized, clearly this was affecting his mental and physical health a lot. And it was a scary situation. I remember when he suffered the injury, nobody knew what was going on. I mean, I didn't know either. I just knew he was out and he was not going to be competing anymore. And when I did see him try to make that comeback at the Arnold Classic, it just wasn't him. He wasn't himself, and I feel like he almost had to do that for contract purposes at the time. I don't think he really wanted to make that comeback. I remember at one point during prep, I think allegedly he was going to pull out because he knew he wasn't ready. And after he did the Arnold Classic, I believe in Ohio, he was supposed to do the Australia, if I'm not mistaken. And he didn't want to do it because of how bad he did in Ohio, but he stuck it out and did it anyway. Even though he didn't look the way he wanted to and didn't get the place he wanted to, he still did it. And that's the main reason I wanted to do a video on Dennis Wolf, because outside of a handful of guys, I'm going to forget people, but these are people that are immediately coming to my mind right now. Jay Cutler, Seth Feroce, Phil Heath, Dennis Wolf, myself. I'm not on their level. I'm just...
So, ich würde sagen, in diesem Sinne beenden wir das Video. Ihr habt es gehört, also Dennis Wolf wird wahrscheinlich jetzt auch, laut auch nach Nick Trigili, wahrscheinlich einfach nur ein bisschen Testo fahren, ein bisschen HGH, so wie es eigentlich jeder machen sollte, der irgendwie mit dem Sport dann aufhört aus seiner aktiven Zeit und auch Spaß hat am Training. So würde ich das Ganze auch gestalten, wenn ich jetzt irgendwann damit aufhören sollte. Das dauert erstmal, Leute. Wir werden jetzt hier erstmal richtig Gas geben. Und ja, falls euch die Reaktion gefallen hat, dann lasst gerne ein Like oder einen Kommentar da. Ihr könnt auch gerne mal in die Kommentare schreiben, worauf wir reagieren sollen. Nächstes Mal vielleicht wieder mit Max. Und dann sehen wir uns zum nächsten Video. Vielen Dank fürs Anschauen. Tschüss, bis zum nächsten Mal.